Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Patmos coming to you live on this February 23rd, 2026, from deep in the jungles of Central America. And I have a very important video for you today. As you probably know, because it's been getting a lot of media attention, surprisingly, a ton of media attention, Dr. J. Bhattacharya has now been appointed to run, at least on an interim basis, the Centers for Disease Control and as well as the National Institutes of Health. This is a really, really important story. If you know what the NIH is, it is the world's was the world's premier uh, research engine based in Washington. It's an enormous organization with billions of dollars of budget and thousands of employees. Running that entity requires very significant experience and knowledge in medicine, science, research, and management. And operations. It's a very complex, very high level senior executive administrative position. In addition, he's now in charge of running the Centers for Disease Control. And that is another large federal entity with thousands of employees and used to be the world's leading disease surveillance entity. It's now been gutted and demoralized and beaten down. And Dr. Bhattacharya is in charge. And this has gotten a lot. I mean, it's a lot of people say, "Well, how can he run two huge entities?" Well, the reality is he can't. This is too much work for any one person to do. But what I want to focus in on today is something that nobody else is talking about. It seems that whatever physicians are put in power by Trump and Kennedy, the complaint is about their policy or their stance or whether they spread misinformation. And that's all true and all worthy to speak about. But no one is talking about what I am talking about, and that is dissecting, cross checking, vetting, verifying their curriculum vitae, their CV, their resume. It's almost as if the media just assumes that what's on their CV is correct, and you can't do that. Resume fraud is a serious problem, and it is a very serious problem among the doctors that have been appointed by Robert Kennedy. Jay Bhattacharya is a perfect example. I have studied and dissected his CV. It's publicly available. You can find it easily. I have gone through it with a fine tooth comb. He is unqualified to be either running the NIH or the CDC, and certainly unqualified to run both. Here's why. What are his credentials? This should be common knowledge. Everybody who's concerned about this should know what his credentials are. Well, I do. Here's what they are. Yes, he holds a MD degree from Stanford. That degree is an ornament. It is of no clinical utility because he never finished his medical education. Earning an MD is not the end of your medical education, it's the beginning. After you get an MD, that's when the real learning begins. That's when you do graduate medical education. That's when you do your internship, your residency, your fellowship. You take your board examinations. If you become board eligible, then you become board certified. That's a complete medical education. Undergraduate MD degree, graduate internship, residency, fellowship, board eligibility, board certification. It's at that point that you become a fully trained physician. Bhattacharya never did graduate medical education. He stopped at the MD, which means that he's never had any real clinical experience as a physician. He's never cared for a patient, not even as an intern. A lack of graduate medical education in the medical world makes you essentially unemployable. There's really nothing you can do because you never finished your education. So that's the first thing about Dr. Bhattacharya. No graduate medical education. He has clinically, his knowledge clinically is pedestrian. It's at an elementary level. He has no graduate medical education, no board certification. That means he doesn't qualify for a medical license. So he can't get a medical license. He doesn't qualify for one. He's never had a medical license. No graduate medical education, no medical license, no board certification. He can't be on a hospital medical staff. He can't have clinical privileges, which means he can't attend to patients and actually have any experience taking care of sick people. He has never had any clinical experience. So he is clinically completely unqualified. And that's the foundation of any of this work, is to be clinically credible. He has no clinical credibility. And I'm sorry, if you don't have clinical credibility, you don't really belong in the conversation. Secondly, does he, as NIH director, he is administering a large basic science, molecular biology, clinical research, basic research engine. Does he have any experience doing that? No. If you look at his CV, his publications, of which he has hundreds, are almost entirely on economics, because that's what his credentials are in. He has this ornamental MD with no graduate medical education. His PhD is in economics. If you look at his bibliography, almost everything he's written is on economics of health policy. That's where he has expertise. He is qualified to be an economist and to opine about economic health policy or economic policy. He is not qualified to opine on clinical matters. He's certainly not qualified to opine on research matters in terms of biomedical research or basic science research or clinical science research. He has no training in that. He has no experience in that. How on earth can he administer the NIH when he's never been in a laboratory doing molecular biology research? He doesn't know the difference between a pipette and a pencil. So what is he doing there? Well, on top of that, so he has no clinical criteria, no clinical background, no clinical credibility. He doesn't have any research credibility. To make a perfect example of his lack of research credibility, his paper, the one that he's made him most famous, the Great Barrington Declaration, I'm sure many of you understand, because many of you have written papers when you were in the grade school. You know that when you write a paper, you're supposed to have references, like a bibliography. Did you know that the Great Barrington Declaration doesn't even have a bibliography? There are no references at all. Here are these recommendations on how to manage a pandemic without a single reference. It's all based on his opinion. So there's that. But finally, here he is running CDC now, running two big organizations. You might say, well, does he have the background or training in management? And if you look at his CV, he has no training in management at all. He doesn't have a degree in business administration. He doesn't have a master's degree in business administration. He doesn't have a master's degree in management. He doesn't have a master's degree in healthcare administration. He has no formal management education or training at all. His job, what he has been, is as an academic in a little tiny niche at Stanford in economic policy around healthcare. And he's been writing papers and getting promoted up in the academic world at Stanford. And that's what he's done. He has no experience clinically, no experience with research, and no experience in management or credentials in management. He has never been to any formal management education, no business school, no master's degree in management at all, no experience running. He has no experience running a mom and pop store, let alone the NIH and the CDC. So he is completely and totally unqualified for either of these jobs. But here is the pièce de résistance. Here is the final straw. He's also dishonest. Dr. Battacharya claims he's an epidemiologist. He has put forth that he's an epidemiologist. Examine his CV closely. He's not an epidemiologist. He has no degree. He has no Master of Public Health, no PhD in epidemiology. He is not an epidemiologist. He's an epidemiologist in his mind. He thinks he is. He thinks he can opine about epidemiology because he's an economist. He is not an epidemiologist. That is an absolute fraudulent claim that he has made based upon his resume. So my point is that we need to look at their positions and their misinformation and so forth. That's all very important, and take issue with the false claims that they make. But I think the bigger issue, and the one that's being missed by everybody, is the failure to vet their resumes, the failure to vet their CVs, do primary source verification, and fact check the claims on their resumes and look carefully at what their education is and what it is not. Jay Battacharya is unqualified for both jobs, and he is not an epidemiologist. He is clinically irrelevant, management untrained, scientifically untrained. He is an economist, and he's a right wing, partisan, Trump loving economist.